Joe Biden became mentally impaired. Kamala was born that way. Okay? She was born that way. And if you think about it, only a mentally disabled person could have allowed this to happen to our country. Anybody would know this.
Mentally impaired. Project much? So I'm going to show you two things that show you the mental impairment of Donald Trump. One is a clip on Piers Morgan that I had earlier today. It was a good fight on there. Second is what we're doing with TrumpBrackets.com. Shows you a lot of mental impairment, 64 different things. So what's the worst that Donald Trump has done? So some of the things that I mentioned in the Piers Morgan interview and debate today is actually in the brackets today, coincidentally. So let's look at it. We got a 1 seed versus a 16 seed here. Impeached for refusing peaceful transition of power. That's as 1 seed as it gets. And it was talked about again on Piers tonight. Use charitable funds to purchase a personal portrait. So look, when you talk about a mentally deranged, he bought a 6-foot portrait of himself twice with charity money that was supposed to go to for like kids with cancer and things like that. He's like, no, people gave money to charity. I'm going to get a portrait of myself. Oh, I look beautiful. He's a lunatic. He's always been a lunatic. He's always been mentally unstable. You remember when he says, the two things I'm known for is being a very stable genius and being very mentally stable. Who says that? Only a deeply unstable person says that. Anyway, this is an easy one, but we need your votes on the rest of it. We'll take that vote on that one as well. But let's go to a hard one, 8 versus 9 seed. Villainized immigrants throughout his political career. We're gonna have a clip for you on that in a second. And received a fake diagnosis of bone spurs to avoid the draft. Of course, when asked which foot it was in, he said he didn't remember. It was uncovered that his dad paid off a doctor to write a fake note for him so that somebody else can go die for him in Vietnam. So now, here's what he said about immigrants throughout.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, they're poisoning the blood of our country. That's what they've done, they poison. We know they come from prisons, we know they come from mental institutions, insane asylums, we know they're terrorists. It's poisoning the blood of our country. It's so bad, and people are coming in with disease. People are coming in with every possible thing that you can have.
That's, of course, just a couple of the mountain of horrible things he said about immigrants, including eating cats and dogs. But the poisoning the blood of our country, if you feel like you've heard that before, yes, that was Nazi propaganda. And so he's revived that because he's the mentally stable one.
Yeah.
Anna, so far?
I mean, I would say that his rhetoric on immigrants is far more consequential because of the fact that obviously it directs hatred and in some cases violence against migrants and immigrants. But also the other part of the consequences that arise from the way Trump talks about it is whenever there is a legitimate problem with migration or with the border, when the messaging is coming from the right, it's much easier to just brush them off as liars or people who are just fear-mongering, right? And so those who are maybe struggling with an influx of migrants in their communities, they don't get treated as if their arguments have any merit, right? So yeah. It's just bad all around and it's more consequential. What was the other thing?
The fake diagnosis on the bone spurs.
Yeah, I mean, that was to save his own ass so he wouldn't have to go fight in that war, and that was a bad thing to do. But again, I think what was more consequential is how he talks about migrants.
I hear you. Yeah, you guys are gonna decide through your votes, and then we'll have a final four, and then we'll have the very worst thing Donald Trump has done. And fans came up with this to begin with. TrumpBrackets.com is how you participate. Although the last thing I'll say about the bone spurs is, it's particularly galling because he constantly pretends to be in favor of veterans. When he had an opportunity to go to Vietnam, he's like, oh no, I want a poor or middle class person to die for me. Let's fake a doctor's note. And if you don't know, he had cops clear out veterans from in front of Trump Tower because he thought they were hurting business. So now, 2 more questions for you. He said there was very fine people on both sides about neo-Nazis and also about people supporting Confederate generals. That's 5 seed. And he had 6 major bankruptcies, including 3 casinos in the same city. That's a 12 seed, and I mentioned that in the Piers clip as well, because he's a moron and has never been able to manage a business effectively in his life or anything else completely. But let's take a look at the clip that's not supposed to exist about him saying very fine people on both sides. Let's watch.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group, excuse me, I saw the same pictures as you did.
Of course, that was Charlottesville, where the neo-Nazis marched saying the Jews will not replace us, and then they killed somebody. But the Republicans say, no, guys, be fair. He might have meant the guys who were supporting the Confederate generals who wanted to keep lynching and slavery and use black people as furniture and sell off their babies.
Yeah, so in that same clip, before it gets cut off, I mean after it gets cut off, he says, that the neo-Nazis should be condemned. He's not talking about them. He wants to be clear.
Then who's the fine people?
Okay, I know, hold on. But if you want to make the argument that supporting those who want to maintain the Confederate statues is an example of him, applauding bad people, okay, that's fine, make that argument. But I don't think he was applauding literal neo-Nazis.
There was only two sets of people there, neo-Nazis and guys who were supporting Confederate generals who wanted to keep slavery. So there was no fine people on the other side, none. The Nazis and the Confederate lovers are not fine people. They either despise Jews and many other people, or they thought blacks should still be slaves. So there was no fine people, none. And when we have a monster who's running for president, who says, oh, well, maybe they're good people. In fact, he dined with two Nazis, Nick Fuentes and Kanye West. And you go, oh, golly gee, I didn't know they were Nazis, even though Nick Fuentes has been saying it publicly for so long, and Kanye to boot. So, all right, but you guys get to decide, TrumpBrackets.com. Last one, implied Kamala Harris exchanged oral sex for career favors versus advocated for increasing oil and gas drilling. One destroys the environment, the other one is a loathsome thing to say about Kamala Harris. Look, I don't even want to run that element for you guys because you get it. He did it. He, talked about oral sex for her and Hillary Clinton. He's a disgusting, vile creature that 40% of the country loves. Okay, so now I promised you the Piers Morgan clip about how he's mentally unbalanced. So while they were trying to tell everybody, oh my God, poor Donald Trump, he's so successful and he's so great, but Kamala Harris is the real problem here. I came in to regulate. Let's watch.
You want to talk about mental impairment? Come on, guys, it should have been over when he said, let's put disinfectant inside our bodies. He's a very, very dumb man.
He didn't say that.
He thinks that clean coal is you take out coal and you scrub it clean. He thinks the F-35 stealth fighter is invisible to the naked eye like Wonder Woman. He took a dementia test and thought it was an IQ test. The other day, he said that the audience in the debate went crazy for him. There was no audience in the debate. The man has significant mental problems.
Oh, I love driving right-wingers crazy on that show. They're like, no, it's not true, our beloved Trump. Everything I said is 100% true, no matter what they say. So TrumpBrackets.com, you guys decide what the most mentally deranged thing Donald Trump has done. You have a lot to choose from.